All right, let's actually do some stuff with our API, right? So an API, the whole point is we want to have some sort of interface for outside users to interact with us. So we're making an app that basically does like, grocery store items. All right, and so we've got this item repo on line 2. I did import item repo from item repo. If you can't figure this out, so you can start with import, and I start typing item repo, and then I hit tab and it filled the rest out for me because the Visual Studio Code is awesome. So it does the import for you. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to instantiate an item repo. Constant item repo equals new item repo. All right, that means that we're going to use this class and all the functionality. Just to reiterate, item repo is responsible. So repo is short for repository, um, but it is responsible for keeping track of all of our data. Okay, remember this is a grocery store app, so we've got like milk, eggs, bread, ham, and we could possibly have more items in the future. And we have our CRUD functions. Okay, create, read, update, delete. All right, that's everything to do with the data for our items. So the item repo class is totally responsible for handling the data with respect to items. So the no other part of our app has to deal with that. So we're going to use the item repo. That's its responsibility. Let's refactor our get endpoint. Remember, endpoints are fixed paths that we let the outside world know of so that they know how to get information from us. So, for example, we have the app, which is the application, and then we're saying, okay, if you do a get, remember the HTTP verbs get, post, put, patch, etc. All right, so we're doing a get. Then we give it an endpoint, right? The slash is just the base. So, for example, when we did 2 videos ago, we did like localhost, and then there was nothing afterwards. Then that means that's the base. So there's nothing afterwards. We're gonna change this up a little bit. We're gonna put items here. So basically, when you put the URL localhost 3000 slash items, then this is gonna run. Okay, so when we do localhost port 3000 slash items, this endpoint will run. This code right here will run. Okay, that's the whole point of an endpoint. An endpoint says if you use this URL, this is what's going to happen. Okay, it's a nice orderly way. So that way, like the people who are using our API know what to expect from us, and we know how our API is organized. Cool. So this is the endpoint, and then what the other thing I'm putting in the get is what function do I run when get is called. So when I do get, what function do I run? Well, here's the function. So it's an asynchronous function. Typically, we use asynchronous functions in web development for like APIs and servers and things like that. Asynchronous is not always better than synchronous. Okay, it depends on the situation. Typically, it's used with web servers. Okay, some people might love it, some people hate it. Like, it's fine. Okay, async does it in the long run will probably make your app run more efficiently. So we're going to use the async keyword in front of the function, and then here is the actual arrow function that we learned way back when. So we have a request and a response. So the request is coming from the person using our API. Somewhere on the internet, somebody is sending us a request. Cool. That's going to be this request object. And then we're going to send them back a response in the form of a promise. Okay, so we got a request and a response. We're going to send them a response in the form of a promise. That means that the promise is going to, whether it errors or fails, you're going to get a response. Okay, the promise is I promise to give you back the result of the response at the end. You're gonna get it's going to fail or it's going to succeed, but you're going to get it back. No dropping dimes down a well and waiting for them to hit. All right, our original code sent a status of 200 and then set an object with a property called message and hi there as the value. Let's refactor this a little bit. Okay, I don't want to do this part anymore. I'm going to get rid of the send part. All right, when someone types in localhost port 3000 slash items, I want to give them all the items. All right, this is going to be my get all endpoint. They want to get all the items that I have. All right, so I'm going to send them back a 200 because remember, 200 means everything went A-OK. No errors on my end, no errors on their end. Everything went fine. I'm going to send them back some JSON. And the JSON I'm going to send them is all the items. So I'm going to use my item repo here. Item repo dot get all items. Now you may be thinking, well, Jonathan, that sends back a list of items. This item repo will get all those item objects. Sure, and then this JSON we'll turn them into JSON. Okay, so that way the person using this can use JSON. Remember, JSON is kind of like the lingua franca. It's the common language, okay, between systems. That way the person using this API, whoever uses my API, they don't have to use TypeScript. They could use Python. They could use C#. They could use whatever they want to use, they can go ahead and use. I'm going to give them the response in JSON, and because JSON is a standardized like way of organizing data, everyone can use it. So I'm going to refactor this like this, okay? And then I've been using TS Node Dev, so as you notice, every time I make a change, it will restart, which is nice. All right, so now it's running, and now we're going to switch over to Postman, and we're going to see how this looks. All right, so here we are in Postman. We had localhost port 3000 as a base. Now I'm going to do /items. Okay, because typically we do this because, well, we like the endpoint says items. That must be the thing you want. It's very obvious to the person using the API that this is the thing that they want. So we're going to do a get, and then we're going to hit send. And bam, look what it gives us. Okay, we got a status of 200. Okay, the format is JSON. And then look, we got it. Each object is the stuff from our item array. All right, so that's pretty cool. So we got an array, and then there's a bunch of objects. So that worked out pretty well. So this is what I mean by endpoint. Localhost port 3000 /items is an endpoint. This endpoint will give you all the items that we have in our database. So even if we were to update our database, you would get whatever new items would be in there, which is very, very nice. All right, so we've already done a get all. So now what happens if we want to get an item by its ID? We're going to have to use what's called query parameters. All right, and let's try to see how that works. For right now, just continue playing around with this, and we'll do query parameters in the next video. But try adding more items to the item array and see that they come up in your JSON when you do this endpoint. And try this a couple times. Try to see if you can really see how it goes from the endpoint, this URL, okay, to our server, to the repo, and then back out again. Okay, it's this whole shebang. All right, and it's really kind of cool. So practice it a couple times, and then I'll show you what to do if you want to put additional information inside the query. So right now we're just doing items. What happens if I want to get an item by its ID?